Yo, yo, yo. This isn't bad. Am I being heard? Let's check that out first. Share the live. And what I will do is get some people in here. And how long has it been? About a minute. I'll give it another 30 to 60 seconds. We're going to go ahead and get started. Looking forward to our conversation today. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Good evening, good whatever time it is that you're watching this, morning, afternoon. I hope everybody is doing well. As always, I hope that you guys have been blessed by these conversations. I want to start off with just a little bit of housekeeping. Um, First off, I want you, if you have not, to go ahead and start following Straight Up Productions on all platforms. I'm gonna go ahead and write it in the comments here. It's tagged in the post, but I'm gonna write it in the comments. Go ahead and follow that page because starting next month, our next installment, I will go ahead and start going live from that page. I've been going live from this page and tagging just so I can um, kind of jar awareness because I get a little bit more followers on my personal page than I do, that page. But I'm gonna go ahead and just start tagging. I mean, going live from the Straight Up Productions page, and I'll probably tag myself and do it the reverse way, but just to start to draw attention there. Okay, so go ahead and start um, following that page. Number two, I got a new webcam. Trying some things, trying to upgrade and update my presentation for these conversations, for these lives, just in general. So hopefully you guys can give me some good feedback, some constructive feedback. Let me know. I got a couple ways I can adjust things. I'm looking at myself on my phone here, and things look okay. They look better, honestly, on my phone than it does on my actual computer, um, which is slightly shocking, but I'll take it. Um, so it's a win. It's a win. Okay. When you guys come in, this is the last thing, and then we'll get started. When you guys come in, go ahead and bring about 2 or 3 people into the comments section. Go ahead and tag them in there so we can grow this community, especially as I start to go live from the Straight Up Productions page. It would be beautiful. It really helped me, help the algorithm. All right, to get those comments, to get more viewers, to get more engagements, hearts, likes, comments. You guys did a really good job the last installment I did. So I definitely appreciate that and would like more. I'm sorry, my light is in the shot here a little bit. Okay. All right. So now that the housekeeping's out the way, let's dive into the conversation tonight. Okay. Uh, I am going to continue our conversation from last night that deals with kind of rehearsal etiquette, rehearsal prep, right? Um, so we talked about the need to rehearse, right? But also the need to plan for that rehearsal, have a plan for that rehearsal. That makes sense? Um, and we talked about what that deals with. So if you missed it, go to YouTube, Straight Up Productions, go to that playlist, and you should see it there. Okay. Today, I'm going to talk more about how to do that, how to plan for a rehearsal, how to study uh, the material, how to study your craft, how to pay attention to certain things to be best prepared for that rehearsal. Okay. Um, and the only scripture I can really think that deals with that is the classic 2 Timothy 2:15. We've all heard it. We've all probably know it, can recite it. That says, "Study to show yourself approved, a workman that does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." Right? The scripture is talking about studying, of course, studying the scripture, studying the Bible as we know it, as they knew it. Right? Doing your prep work ahead of time so that when it's time to display in front of the people, in front of the Lord, to the Lord on His behalf, you're not ashamed because you're not unprepared. You're ready to rightly divide. You're ready to exegete. You're ready to demonstrate. You're ready to present. Right? Well, that same concept applies to us in the worship arts. Right? Yes, we're skilled. Yes, we're anointed, but that does not excuse us from the need to study. Right? From the need to prepare. Right? So, what does that look like? Well, it's a lot of digging. Dig, dig, dig. Dig, 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 right? We're going to use, as much as I would like to use like the icebreaker concept, we're going to use like straight, you're going to use the oil concept, right? Or you start at the flat surface and you just dig, 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 dig till you get to the oil, right? And I'm not getting deep with oil and anointing and all that kind of stuff. I'm not doing that. Literally just talking about the process of digging, right? So that surface level is what meets the eye, right? The obvious. You know, musicians, we listen to it because we want to get the changes, right? We want to find out what key it's in, what the chords are, boom, right? Singers, melody, you know, what your part is, what the words are. That's it, right? Media, you know, get the words. If you even listen to the song, you can go look it up and decide how you want to break up the slides and, you know, go from there, right? Dance team, you probably listen, you know, see what the words are, see what the tempo is, the 8 count, all that kind of stuff, and figure out your movements and cool, right? But where do we go from there? What can we better do, right? Musicians, let's start with you, right? Sound palette. We want to deal in that, and that might be a given too. That also might be surface level, right? But think about what what sounds are being used and like if that is how you want to approach it, or if you're thinking about an arrangement, you know, how else you could do it, right? For instance, if something starts with, you know, a piano, right? If it's a worship song or whatever that just starts with a piano, okay, do I want to do that, or what would it be like for it to start off with a pad, or acoustic guitar, or you know, or strings, or whatever, right? What all can I accomplish big picture sound palette wise, right? Because a lot of y'all know it, we fuss about it all the time. You know, we get sent these songs that have these amazing productions, but we sitting here with keys, drums, and bass, or keys and drums, or keys, drums, organ, and bass, sorry, keys, drums, yeah, organ and bass, or maybe you got a guitar player or whatever, but we don't have a full horn section, string section. We don't got keys, organ, aux, guitar one, guitar two, drums, percussion. We don't got all that, right? Maybe you have stems, perhaps, but if you the baseline beauty would be keys, drums, and bass, right? So how can I manipulate these patches to get it as close to the record feel wise and sound wise as possible? Study that. Is it synths? How much synth? That's something I'm personally working on. Like, okay, my synth may be a little too much. Let me make sure my piano still cuts. Or if I'm using like an MKS or FMEP or whatever, to thicken it up or to kind of fill out, beef up the sound, right? Let me make sure that blend is right and matches, right? It feels good. Let me make sure my bells aren't too much, right? Um, think about what kind of synths, what kind of pads, right? If I want to do an arrangement, what sounds fit the arrangement, right? Dig. Think about that. Think about the lines that are being played. Dig, right? Think about how the song is transitioning from one place to the next. And if there's no transition, make one. I was talking with my guy Stephen Dukes, working on something, and there was just no transition material from one place to the next, right? It was it was just, oh, we're here, now we're here. Now we're here. Now it does this and it does this. It's just so sporadic or it's so seamless that it's kind of confusing, right? And how many of us have been in those situations, musicians, where it's like, you know, God bless these worship arts leaders. They'll give us, a hand signal, but then like the music doesn't really change. So it's like, okay, what you want us to do about it, right? You don't always have to do something different, but it might help to create some transition material where there is none. So think about some lines that'll work. Think about some chord progressions that'll work that'll lead you from one place to the next, right? It's totally okay. As I was saying, in my last live, it's totally okay to arrange something. You don't have to be glued to the record. You don't. But we want to do the record justice. That makes sense? Okay? So dig, right? Um, I'll circle back to musicians in just a second. Our next layer of digging, right? Vocalists, right? Think about and listen for note length, where the note ends, where it begins. Listen for blend, right? Listen for diction. Listen for delivery, right? Not all, you can have a word like do, may, me, um, I. Simple words like that, right? But depending on the song, the artist, they could all be pronounced different ways. Kirk has some different stuff. Fred has some different stuff. Some of Todd Delaney's, especially the worship stuff, can be super breathy, right? So listen to that stuff. It's not just grabbing the words. It's not just grabbing your part, but listen to how it's being delivered, how it's being presented. Hey, how are you? Uh, listen to vibrato versus straight tone, right? A lot of us, especially if we're the charismatic background, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever we got, we love a good vibrato. Oh, we love it. As soon as our mouth open, shaking from wall to wall. We don't always need that though. The record doesn't always call for that. The moment doesn't always call for that, right? So train your ear to listen for, oh, are they doing straight tone here or vibrato? How long is this note? It's not till you run out of breath. It's not however long you feel like it, however long you think it should be, right? Count, right? And make sure that matches. Okay. Uh, graphic designers, those who are running doing the media stuff, I challenge you to be creative. There's a lot of tools out here. It's not just PowerPoint. Canva is a tool. If you guys are using ProPresenter, that's definitely a worldwide tool. There's a lot of different softwares out here that give you a lot of customization. Uh, So I would challenge you to create something that's enticing, right? A lot of times, especially when worship leaders are delivering new songs, new materials, right? Um, we don't know the words. That's just the cost of a new song. You have to assume that no one else knows the song, right? It's a new song, at least for the church, right? So what's going to draw those eyes to the screen? What's going to make or cause a viewer to focus in on what's being displayed, right? Um, that's going to keep their attention to say, oh, okay, Uh, what's going to help intensify the message of the song? Canva is great. I love it too. Beautiful tool. Um, what's going to help enhance the message of the song, right? Um, all throughout service, not just praise and worship too. This is a little aside, right? Like even in certain prophetic messages or prophetic chants that can happen in the spur of the moment. What's a good image? What are good colors, right? What are the fonts that work to help enhance the meaning of the song that are clear enough and legible enough to read from various spots in the room, right? Font size, right? How many words fit on the screen? How legible is that? So that we're not trying to read a whole verse on one slide, right? Uh, dig to also count to see, okay, how much time do I have musically before I need to go ahead and load up this next slide or be ready for the next thing? Because I understand. Listen, for those that don't know, okay, it can be a lot of activity going on in that media booth. Uh, is it look If you think they back there just twiddling thumbs, I need you to think again. Give some grace to the media team. God bless you. Okay. There's a lot going on with camera angles and with technology issues and cable issues. And is this doing this? And get your preview slide to your main slide and make sure this is loaded. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So be thinking, even if you need to feel the phrasing. Oh, you know what? This phrase is about to end. Let me make sure we straight. Look for enhancement, right? Because all the time you may not be doing the song like the record. So look for, be ready to look at the lead singer if they're doing, if they're going to do that section again, or if they're going to move to the next part, or be ready. Be ready to check in, but dig in to those areas to make sure you are presenting the graphics in the best way possible to create an engaging atmosphere for the congregation. Okay. Same thing with the dancers, right? It's kind of habitual and innate to um, do things that line up with the words. And if I'm honest, dance is like the least of my proficiencies, right? Um, but does it really match? Are my movements too chaotic for this moment? Right? We don't want to create too much distraction for the audience, right? If I'm moving all over the place, singers are doing one thing, it's a lot of activity on the screens or whatever we got going on, and the audience is just kind of all over. We don't want that, right? But think about building movements that build with the song, right? Are my flag colors appropriate? Are they appropriate? And this is more of like a purchase thing, perhaps, but like, is my flag size appropriate for the sanctuary size, right? We don't want flags and banners wiping people across the face and, all this kind of stuff. Um, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Do my movements are they non invasive movements? We done seen the dancing saints get all up in the aisles and in people's face. And I was actually in a situation where I saw a dancer like start to lay hands on somebody, and I'm like, okay, like as a part of their routine, like it wasn't a ministerial situation, and I was just like, all right, like that wasn't called for. Very awkward. Um, but what's going to minister well, right? We're in a place where we're preparing to present in a way that helps people focus on God, to receive from whatever he wants to do, right? Ministry and performance have to come together, but ministry still has to be the number one goal. So, am I presenting and preparing to present in a way that still makes Jesus the highlight? Not the song, not our skill sets, not, you know, our planning skills, right? Because we love for a thing to go according to plan. I know I do, right? So I don't want to leave a moment and have people say, "Oh man, you can tell they really put a lot into this." Like that's good, and we appreciate that, right? Because we want to be able to know that we had a rehearsal, that we put some time into this. But I want people to have engaged Jesus. And it takes skill to do that. It takes planning to do that. It takes execution. It takes excellence. It takes all of that to do that. Yes. Right? However, it's not the end goal is not the skill set. The end goal is Jesus. And it takes excellence to do that. That makes sense? Okay. The next phase of digging, right? Let's come back to the musicians. Let's come back. Okay? Dynamics. Dynamics. We gotta consider it. How does the song build? Everything is not one dynamic level. Fast or slow. There should be some sort of migration to get somewhere, right? Even if we start at 80 and then we go to 90, like something should happen that moves the song somewhere, right? Think about energy and what causes a song to lift, right? Don't dump all your tricks out at the top of the record, and you have nowhere else to go, right? Think about arrangement, organist. This Leslie switch, these drawbars. We gotta be considerate. We have to be mindful, right? When we look at dynamics and energy, uh, understand that like that fast rotation on the Leslie introduces a certain energy and dynamic in movement, right? It's not a set it and forget it, and it's also not a constant adjustment, right? So like we're talking about now we're kind of in a mixture of studying our craft and studying to plan for a rehearsal, like especially in the world of where CCM is becoming increasingly popular. Um, there are moments where I'm just like, okay, this because a little insight about me. Whenever I'm playing, period now, my producer mind is always on. You know, you get these people that I think like a bass player, or I think like a drummer, I think like a singer, I think like a songwriter. I think like a producer. So I'm kind of listening back, listening to everything, and say, okay, what is going to cause this moment in the tune, or this moment in the service, or whatever? What's going to cause that to shine best? What's going to cause this groove to highlight? What's going to cause this message to be brought to the forefront in the best of its ability? What is the, how can I, make this moment shine in its best? How can I be a support to what's going on, right? That's what's going through my head, right? So anything that's distracting, we got to get rid of that. So sometimes, like a fast Leslie speed is distracting to the moment. The wrong guitar effect, distracting. The wrong bass tone, distracting. The wrong drum being hit, right? If you are, I'm so detailed to where like if you're in the hi-hat and you should be on the ride cymbal, that's distracting. If your hi-hat is closed and it should be open, that's not the right thing, right? If you're on the cross stick when you should be on the 12, if you're on the 10 when you should be on the 12, that's distracting, right? If your kick is on 1 and 3 when it should be 4 on the floor, we need to address that, right? Note length, right? Even for you, I know we talked about singers, but like guitar players, bass players, that note length is important, right? Make sure it's really doing what it needs to be in that moment. There are certain things where we can't sacrifice there are certain songs that are presented in a way to where we can't sacrifice the groove on it, or else it just throws the feel off, right? So dynamics, energy, direction, right? And then also, especially for our music directors, man, study music directors. Like, study that skill of music directing. Some music directors that I pay attention to: Mike Burrell, Calvin, Home Team, Levi King, Christian Brown. I know is a big one right now. Uh, and I pay attention to these guys because, especially like Levi Two King and Calvin, what I pick up off of them is, man, if you watch them, they barely say a word during live performances or live instances of them playing. Barely say a word. So what does that say to me? They must have had a very detailed rehearsal. If I don't have to open my mouth, right? Cats like Christian Brown, AJ Brown, uh, they're really good with giving hits and lines and stuff like that, that kind of information. But they present it in a way to where, like in real time, they give the they give the material in time ahead of time, so that way they can play it correctly when it's time for that. Does that make sense? So like if they're playing like a 5, 6, 7, 1 in a tune, they're gonna give that to you in a way that's like call and response. So they'll like or repeat after me kind of situation, right? Um, so they'll go 5, 6, 7, 1, ba 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 ba, right? They're really good at that stuff. Like I picked that up personally from what somebody told me about AJ Brown, and then which y'all, if y'all don't know who that is, that's the bassist and MD at they're called the Bridge Church now, but part of South North Dallas. Um, that's who does that. And notice that all these MDs play different things. Calvin Rogers is a drummer. AJ Brown is a bass player. Everyone else is a keys player. So what does that say? MD is not given to the keys player always. It's not the case, right? But these guys know how to prep for a rehearsal. They've done their work. They know how to play. They know the song, so where they're not like trying to remember the song and lead the band. It's a lot of no, 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 right? They've studied how to do that. They've worked on that. And music directors, is important to know how to do that because things can shift on the fly, right? Another thing that Christian Brown is good at doing is always having a loop ready and knowing how to start that and control that in real time. Mike Burrell is good at it too. Um, if y'all don't know who Tajik Hines is, he's a bassist. I don't know where he is now. I met him in Alabama, but I don't know if he's in Atlanta now or still in Alabama. I do believe he's playing for Kalante Gavin at this moment. But he's real good with that, and that's important to know how to do, especially when things to keep the production value of what you're doing at a certain level, especially in the day and age of live streaming and things of that nature. And when certain moments like praise breaks or certain songs break out a certain way, you want to keep that production level at a certain point. Know how to run Ableton real well. Know how to run your MPC, your XR20, your XME, your whatever real well, It's very important. Sometimes you got to know how to just call it, like just go live, which is another important facet of just knowing your craft, right? Because apps like Loops by C Dub and XME, the thing about that is that there's a delay, and not all delays are the same. So sometimes there's like a dotted eighth note of a delay. Sometimes it's like a couple of milliseconds, right? But it's not like Ableton where you boom, as soon as you hit it, it goes. Even with the tap tempo, right? You can tap and then hit it and still gonna be a delay. And so sometimes if you don't know how to time that kind of thing, especially in the moment, you might just want to call it. Right? Things happen. Um, man, dig and consider transitions. How am I gonna get from one song to the next song seamlessly? That's a big thing in music performances. Period. Gospel music, R&B, whatever, TV show, gig, musical, whatever. Like people are terrified of dead space. Terrified of dead space, right? And like it may seem like a no-brainer to just okay, we'll go from one song to the next song. Okay, well, key changes like are a thing. And when the song is different, the key is different, the energy is different, the tempo is different, it can just be an abrupt change that's kind of awkward, right? So dig and work out like how am I going to get to one song from the next song? Am I going to make a melodic transition? Am I going to make a harmonic transition? Am I going to let the drums do it? Like, think about that kind of stuff. Those of you who plan stems, right, and you either build your own stems or you just kind of organize the stems where you get them from Loop Community or whatever. Um, think about how you're going to transition from that. Is the pad going to carry it over? Is a whatever, right? Like really, really consider that as you plan for rehearsal, so that you know how to delegate what needs to happen in rehearsal. Because here's another piece of information, right? I don't like to waste people's time. People don't like to have their time wasted, right? So a big part of, you know, I'm sorry, my eyes all over the place. I'm looking at you, looking at that. I don't know. Uh, you want to make sure in rehearsals that you prioritize efficiency. And the way you do that is prep time ahead of time, right? So really work on all this stuff so you know how to delegate that information to help the efficiency of that rehearsal. Okay, vocalists. You can study lead singers, especially uh, those who um, have praise teams where more than one person leads. That's where I'm going with that, right? It's not just one lead singer, but multiple people lead. Dig and study praise team leaders and not just people who lead the song that you're assigned to lead. No, like study lead singers. Miranda Curtis, Candy West, Todd Delaney, Osby Berry, uh, Nick Trailer, um, Naomi Rain, Chandler Moore. Like the list goes on. Like, and what I personally do is I study some of these people. I literally look up them doing praise and worship because it's one thing for them to do their material. Of course, Chandler Moore is going to kill some Maverick City stuff. He's going to kill his own stuff. But like when you watch him at All Nations, for example, or Social or whatever he is, you know what I'm saying? That's a little bit of a different environment, right? Of course, Naomi's going to kill some Maverick City stuff. She's going to kill her own stuff. When you see her leading worship at a church, that's a different situation, right? Ty Delaney is getting a little more hybrid. So his stuff is a lot of times like in praise and worship environments that are getting captured and just put out as recordings. So a lot of times now, within these past year to 3 years, I'd say, um, those things are kind of synonymous, right? Miranda Curtis um, is another one. Her stuff from um, All Nations or the Potter's House or whatever, right? you can see how, and what I mean by study them is like how they announce transition, how they do stuff like announce unison to parts and inversions and things like that, right? Um, how they communicate with the band, how they engage the audience, how they lead everyone through a song, how they lead everyone through a moment, right? I know zero people's names for what I'm about to say, but I mean, Jaleesa is one. Jaleesa Faye, she's really good. Jasmine Walton, some of these people from the East Coast, but these people at Change Church, at World Overcomers, at Embassy Worship, things of that nature. Um, Man, they're really good at just like flowing prophetically through moments, right? So if you're at a church that's a very what I would call fluid worship culture, right, where it's not necessarily like programmed out. Like you go to some churches where it's very production heavy, and that's not a knock. Hear me, that is not a knock. There are just some churches where their style is more production heavy. So we have, you know, a 2 minute opening video. Then we have a 60-second welcome. Then, praise and worship is going to be 15 minutes flat because we stemmed it out and tracked it out. So after praise and worship is over, boom. Then we have announcements. Then we have offering. Then we have the word. And then we do another song for altar call. And then service is over in, 75 minutes. Boom, boom. Start, finish, done. That's fine, right? Then you have churches that are way more open and fluid, where it's like, okay, we open with prayer, and yeah, on paper, prayer might be 3 to 5 minutes, but that thing might get a little amandai. It might get a little robandaya. It might get, we might go there, right? So prayer ends up being 7 minutes, and then I know we had our song prepared, but we're still here in this moment. So what we're going to do is kind of exhort or have a prophetic chant that links the prayer to praise and worship, and then we kind of flow from there, right? It takes a skilled worship leader to know how to do that, whether it gets crazy or not in prayer, right? And then to pass the baton on to the next person. Worship is over, but then here's how we exhort into that next thing and pass the mic off to the next person, and then go have a holy seat. Then go do that, right? Um, so even if prayer is scripted, like it takes a skilled person to know how am I going to in that moment, you know, segue it, well, not end it, but segue that moment into the start of this. How am I going to segue that into introducing praise and worship now, introducing this portion of service, right? Um, Other than telling everybody don't stop your prayer, like, if I'm honest, it's a little awkward for me. Speaking personally, you may agree or disagree, but it's a little awkward for me when it's like everybody's still going up and clapping and, vocal exhortation. And then the next person comes up, come on, lift your voice. Well, daughter, son, we're doing that already. That's just me. That's just me. But, uh, one of my mentors, Jermaine Manor, like he's great at just introducing the moment with the scripture or introducing the moment with, greeting a neighbor or whatever, some different activity that kind of loosens up the moment. And then he starts to go into the song, different strategies, right? Just study that stuff. Um, 'Cause I think it's important to do Sunday morning simulations and rehearsal just so people can get a feel, for what to expect, right? So study that stuff. I also encourage vocalists. Like I did this when I was over the praise team at a couple of churches I was at, but I would study background singers and look at how they're breathing. Look at how they're standing, right? If those two things are correlated. Look at how demonstrative they are. All right. Background singers in general, they aren't the most stoic. Me, I'm a stoic person. Sometimes you can catch me in the groove now, but like singers, they're usually real happy-go-lucky and they're free. We want to twirl and we want to do all kind of things, right? But there's a certain demonstrative presence that good professional background singers have, regardless of how free they are, that helps assist a moment too. And that's something to watch out for in rehearsal. That's something to plan to look at and address if need be in rehearsals, right? How you're standing, if you're smiling, are your eyebrows raised, are your hands moving? Even if you're using handheld mics, right? Is that other hand moving? Is it doing something? Uh, and sometimes it's not even worship. Like if I'm keeping it buck 50 with you, and hopefully I'm not, bursting new bubbles or anything like that. But like sometimes singers are doing these things to help themselves with the note that they're singing. Like they're directing themselves. You'll see them like if they have like a crazy vocal line or whatever, they'll point the line. They'll do this as they're holding a note out. Like it just happens, right? But it helps, like it's movement, and it helps the moment be like that much more engaging and inviting to the audience. Like it just has a certain visual effect that helps. It really does. And sometimes it is worship. A good hand raise, right? Um, yes, sir. Uh, all of that. So study that. Study that. Here's another thing for presentation, and this might be where the media team, videographers can help in this like spacing of the vocalist. All right, like don't be all leaned up on one side or the other side, or jumping to get like they're evenly spaced, and then they also know how to. I can't think of the official the professional term for it, but they're when they cross and like move across stage, they have a very seamless way of doing that, while also engaging each other. And polished praise and worship leaders will encourage that, like especially when there's no mic stands involved and handheld mics and all that kind of stuff. Like they'll say, even if there are, like they'll say, you know, demonstrate what we're asking the audience to do. So if it's like, touch your neighbor or whatever, like, or greet your neighbor, slap them a high five and say, so good to see you, I'm ready to worship the Lord and all that kind of stuff. Like you'll see praise team members, they'll high five each other and they're smiling and they're pointing across stage and you'll see that, right? But especially on platforms that have like bigger stages, like your Potter's houses or your Change churches, things of that nature, all nations, you'll kind of see them like vibe out. Like if they're in the groove, what you call his church? John Hannah's church. Um, Jesus, New Life, something new believer, something. I can't think. But John Hannah's church is another one where Jabari Johnson leads a lot of times, right? Like they'll get in the groove and they'll kind of be walking across stage and kind of like you'll see a hand over, somebody else's shoulder. You see that a lot at Spirit of Faith, where I can't think of nobody's name tonight. Tim. Y'all help me out in these comments. Who's my guy, dark skinned cat, who does all the arrangements? He did the Ricky Diller. He does all the arrangements and the tributes. Did the Clark Sisters join? Yes, thank you, Tim Bowman. You'll see his praise team do it a lot, but they cross in a way that's not distracting. Like they're not running into each other. They're not running into band members. They're not kicking lights over. They're not doing none of that, right? And if that's something you want to incorporate, do it. Like I think it really helps live stream. It really helps like the people in the audience because it's worship is especially corporate worship, right? It's a team sport. Let's win together. Like let's engage them together, right? Um, and so when you see them up on stage having a good time, like then you start to see people in the audience. Now they walking around and they crosstalk is the term for quiet. Hey man, very interesting. Um, I haven't seen praise teams use that term. I know when I was on tour, he kept talking about upstaging, and I know staging. Maybe that's the term because staging, from what I remember, deals with it's more of a theater term, like deals with where people stand on stage. But hey man, uh, yes, definitely organic, and it just ups the engagement. Um, so if that's something you want to, that's something you want to incorporate, which I think you should. Like study that, you know, study. Okay, how are they moving? How are they, who's going where how are they getting back to one another? But here's the other thing, right? Again, with rehearsal prep, you have got to be prepared to do that because one thing I can guarantee you that they're not thinking about is their part. Like they know it so well that they're not actively thinking about it. Because a lot of y'all be piggybacking off your neighbor. Hmm? Y'all be half singing with your ear, like that to make sure you're straight. You've got to be solid. If you're gonna have all that energy and even make direct interaction with the crowd and all that, you got to be solid on your words. Got to be solid on your parts. Right? Got to do it. Uh, Here's another thing to consider: media people, typing speed. Hey man, some people are quick to add a vamp that wasn't rehearsed, that's not in the record. Like we said, go into a prophetic chant and all that kind of. You might want to spend some time getting your type speed up. Be ready, mugs. Be and learn your system, right? Learn your software, your interface, um, to learn how to seamlessly, uh, add a new slide or change a slide or whatever. Get them words up real quick, right? It's important to keep that engagement up. And if at all possible, get that preview main slide thing together or the freeze frame stuff. Excuse me, because while we want engagement, we want the right kind of engagement. We don't want to end up on church funny fails or whatever. Uh, Listen, it's so essential. It's so essential. Let's do it together. Why not? Apostle, God bless you. Uh, no, you good. I love it. Um, you know, we don't want to be on church funny fails because I'm watching you click left and right trying to find the slide, then try to find how to add the new one and do all this. Like I'm watching your whole process real time, right? Uh, Let me answer this question here. How does ah so I let me make sure I understand. So you're asking how does those spur of the moment situations affect what was rehearsed? Is that what you're asking? And while I'm waiting on that response, oh yes, oh yes, yes. For those of you who don't know, so JJ is down here in DFW. Um, he's an admin for one of the church music community groups out here. So I'm new to Texas, but where I come from in St. Louis, that's like the majority of who I play behind the people who go off script a lot. So that's part of what I was talked about in a few videos ago. Knowing those that labor amongst you, right? That's scripture, but it's very imperative. Know those that labor amongst you. Know the sound of your house, know the culture of your house, because that's something to just prepare for, right? So how that affects what was rehearsed, it really depends on everybody's skill set and readiness level. right? If you're going to go off script, you have to know how to go off script, right? So let me start with these vocalists. Why am I starting with vocalists? Because, as I said 2 lives ago, I think it was 2 lives ago, us in the band pit, we're accompanists. Very rarely do we lead the charge. And I'm not here to get into who's more important and all that kind of stuff. I'm not doing that tonight. But we are accompanists. We are following you, right? So if you're gonna go off script, you gotta know how to go off script. That means your melody has to be a certain way, your phrasing has to be a certain way, and the word length has to be something, right? Don't give us a whole new song with 16,000 words and all that. Don't let's not get crazy, right? Give us something bite-sized pieces that we can latch on to and do something with very quickly. Give us a melody that is creative enough yet simple enough that we can do something with and latch on to it quickly. Okay, and from there, the skill set level has to be, and there's more of arrangement skill. Has to be to a certain place, right? That we can create something like that on the spot. Okay, I'm probably gonna teach on this a little later, but y'all probably seen this question being posed. Who was the first person to be filled with the Spirit? Right? It was a creative. It was, I can't remember his name, something with a B, but he was the one that was tasked with doing a lot of the woodworking and things of that nature, metalworking and things of that nature for the tabernacle, right? But he was a creative, right? We see God first introduced as a creative, meaning that we have the ability and the anointing to create, right? So our skill set, we're not without study, remember. So our set has to be to a place to where if something happens like that on the spot, we can create something on the spot or play what the Lord gives us, which is why personal skill set is so important, because how unfortunate would it be for God to give you a sound that you can't reproduce because you're not studied? Your theory skills ain't up. Your whatever. You don't know your scales. You don't know how to create minor chord over you know what I'm saying? So we have to study that. That affects it. And then I think from there you just have to be used to that kind of environment, right? Don't let the going off script frustrate you. Because a lot of times there's a prophetic thing happening. And in that kind of prophetic regard, prophetic deals with the immediate word, right? So don't let that frustrate you. Be ready to just go with the flow. Hopefully that answers your question. Um, yes. So with yes, this media team, get your type speed up. Got to do it. Got to do it. Got to do it. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of coming to the end, but those are all things. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, and actually, to tag on to that question, man, if you have the time to do it at your church in a band rehearsal, one of the things I used to do is just practice different flows. Right? I would literally just turn on the loop and create something right then and there. Just to build the muscle of flowing, right? We may not do this. We're not gonna get into service Sunday and say, "Hey, play that thing we played in band rehearsal." No, I just want to build the muscle of flowing in real time, right? So that's something to rehearse. The last thing I'll say about that is it's a difference between going off script, like in the moment, and arranging, and both are okay. So like a song may be sent out, and whoever's in charge, the worship arts pastor or whatever, may say, "Hey, I want to tag this on at the end. Like, let's run through that in rehearsal." That's an arrangement, and that's perfectly fine, right? But something can also happen in the moment that you have to be ready for, right? So two different things. But yeah, these are all things to dig into your craft to help you prepare, period, and to prepare for rehearsal, right? Because if you're paying attention to all those things, you're paying attention to dynamics, paying attention to sound palette, you're paying attention to note length, you're paying attention to your part, you're paying attention to stage presence and what things look like on stage and how you're interacting and making sure the lighting team, making sure them lights are right. Making sure, all that stuff is taken care of, graphics, making sure all that stuff is, tip top shape, and really doing your research with the programs and things of that nature. Like, you can work on that stuff. Hopefully, you can work on that stuff at home. Don't be afraid to ask whoever, admin team, worship arts director, for like login codes so you can work on this stuff at home. Like, I think that's perfectly acceptable and perfectly okay. So that way you can even better when you get back to church for rehearsal or for your Sunday service. Like, I look up sound stuff all the time. I research all the stuff that I'm telling you. I look at, my wife will tell you, I'm studying concerts. I'm studying gear. Like, no, we might not go get a montage tomorrow, but it's like, oh, maybe I don't need, all of that. Or like, I study setups. Like, oh, you don't need a 2-tier everywhere. Like, you can really make it happen with one. Oh, okay. Oh, he's running a laptop. How's he like? All that kind of stuff. Like, yes, have the rehearsal, but prep for the rehearsal, right? And efficiency is a skill, and I can tell you from experience. When we talk about buy-in and culture, and I think Minister, I don't even know your title. I'm so sorry. Alyssa Alexander's on here. Like, we were talking about buy-in, I think this morning, if not yesterday, but I think it was this morning. People are more excited to come to rehearsal and engage when they know their time is not going to be wasted. I can show up, I can learn something, I can have a good time, and not be here all night. Like, understand that these are individuals who have been to work already, probably did some sort of workout, so they're tired. They probably didn't put out so many fires at home or at work, right? And I got to come through and sit through a rehearsal just to sing through a song that I did on the way here. Like, no, like, let's actually make it mean something, and let's not be here. Like, and we can engage God in rehearsal. Yes. I definitely said that this morning. I haven't built a band in a long time. For real. Like, the one that I'm a part of, I haven't, no. Like, we end up being brothers, and then I call my brothers. That's how that works. But I can remember running my first rehearsal in a new position where I was over band and singers. Rehearsal started at 6. We were walking. I was sending them out at 7:55, 8 o'clock, and then, oh, we done already. But yeah. We should be able to get a lot done in a good 2 hours. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll talk about that next week, like how to schedule and plan out your rehearsal, but I don't know if that's going to take an hour or not. But anyway, love y'all. I enjoy doing this. All right. Y'all tune in. Mark your calendars for next time. I will be back on June 2nd. All right. Ready to do this again. If you have not followed, I'm going to tag it one more time for all the new commenters. If you have not followed Straight Up Productions, go do that. Okay? I hope to see you and a couple of your friends in 2 weeks. All right? Y'all have a good night.